And welcome to another edition of your new Sports Outlaws podcast. As always, I am Neil and this is Dan. And Dan, I have to apologize to you and any and all of our listeners. I am still battling a little bit of something in my throat. I think it's laryngitis combined with a sinus infection. So I'll do my best tonight while I get distracted by the Knicks losing to the Mavs. Dan, how are you?
Today is a good day. It is for us teachers, obviously for most of the world too. Um, we have a nice 4-day weekend. There's Thanksgiving. We have a lot of sports coming on. We have basketball today. We have football tomorrow and Friday. Sunday games, obviously. A lot of good sports to talk about. Let's get to it. Where do we
Yeah.
want to start? Where are we starting today?
So, Dan, in our private conversations, I've teased for a couple of days now that I had a big surprise for you, and I had planned in my head that I was going to get streamers and like the little popping fireworks celebration things to celebrate the Brooklyn Nets on their NBA championship by beating the Golden State Warriors. Daniel, it's got to be surreal.
So I guess the surprise is we'll get the Nets over with. All right, that's perfect. We'll get the Nets over with first. Perfect. You could get your break, get as much water as you want in you. That's perfectly good. All right. So I actually had a little question for you. Actually, this related. I didn't tell you about this at all, but it's going to be related to the Nets. So as you kind of prefaced, the Nets had a very good back-to-back this past Sunday and Monday. They beat the Kings and the Warriors on the road. Very impressive. It was especially against the Warriors, considering our injuries, and I wrote them all down very nicely. It was the most I wrote down ever for the Nets. So we have Cam Thomas, who left the game at the third quarter, Noah Clowney, who left the game in the second quarter, Cam Johnson, who left the game in the second half, Nick Claxton did not play, Ben Simmons did not play, Finney Smith did not play. So, obviously, my question for you, we'll get into it. Can you name 4 Nets other than those Nets that I named? Can you name 3? We'll go 3. Can you name 3 other Nets that played possibly in that game? Maybe 4.
Did you name Dennis Schroeder?
No, he actually did play, so that is one. That is one. Can you name
Um,
2 to 3 other Nets that played in
Cam
that game?
Cam Johnson.
Cam Johnson was injured. He did play, but he was injured. I put him on my list. I wanted somebody else.
I didn't know if I heard that. I knew
All
I
right, I'll
heard.
go. So the ones that were injured again, I'll repeat one more time. We have Cam
All right,
Thomas. We have Cam Johnson. We
okay.
have Nick Claxton. We have Ben
Mhm.
Simmons. We have Noah Clowney. I don't know if you even know who that is. We have Dorian
Big,
Finney-Smith.
big man, right, Clowney?
Yeah, big skinny guy, kind of like Claxton, except he can shoot really well. All right, Finney-Smith, Claxton, Simmons, all out, along with those others. Can you name, besides Dennis Schroeder, give me 2 other Nets that
Nah,
played?
I'm out. That's all I got.
Well, you made me talk about Jalen Wilson. We could Summer League MVP. The very
I remember saying the name. I do remember
Shake
saying the name.
Shake Milton. You remember Shake Milton? He used to be somewhat decent.
I should have gotten Shake. I should have gotten Shake.
um, yeah, basically remember Trenton Wofford. We had Zaire Williams, but we won't get into the roster of the Nets. But it was basically very impressive for the Nets. I I don't even know what to say right now. You would think they were down by 18 midway through the third quarter. I'm staying up to midnight on a West Coast trip. I don't know why I'm staying up to midnight watching it before school night, but I was up watching the Nets, and it's crazy what they're doing right now in terms of being 8-10. I think they're the 8th seed. I want to say right now.
Yep.
It's whatever Jordy Fernandez has got them doing. I mean, I know they're running offense really well. They're shooting a lot of threes. They're playing pressure defense, but they got them believing and they got them going. I don't know if it's a mix of the Nets are kind of playing hard every game and every team is kind of like not really like into it until like January, February. But if they're 8-10, the only question with the Nets is, are they going to trade off parts? And I'm going to do it now. I'm not sure if you saw this, but Cam Thomas is actually going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh
In case
wow.
you didn't know that, with the left, he just came down today with the left hamstring. left hamstring. So I don't know. We got a big game today against the Suns. Our old friend Kevin Durant, in Phoenix. So we'll see how they do. But
I knew Cam had gotten banged up. I wasn't aware that he was going to be out several weeks.
I didn't know that either until.
So I will admit that, first of all, I want to apologize if any of our listeners have stayed through this net open. My surprise to Danny was I wanted to congratulate him on his championship and get the Nets out of the way. And we went a little long on the Nets, but I do believe they are one of the biggest surprises in the NBA. I mean, there's some negative surprises, but when you talk about positive surprises, people doing better than you expected, I think that the Nets, I know the Nets were not expected to win this many games this quick. I mean, Vegas had their over under at 19 and a half, and they already have they have half those wins already. So they're halfway there. Okay. While we're on basketball, let's talk about the atrocity I'm watching right now. The Knicks are very Jekyll and Hyde lately. They looked absolutely awful in Utah and then looked absolutely dominant in Denver. Denver's a better team than Utah, has better players, yet they got smoked by Utah and looked awesome against Denver. And now tonight they have another looks like so far another repeat performance from the Utah night where they're just it's not clicking. They're not playing good defense. I believe Bridges is becoming a absolute issue. I will admit that his defense is not. Listen, if he was missing shots, I'd have no problem with it. But he was touted as for his defense. He was supposed to be an excellent lockdown defender. In my mind, when we made that trade, I don't mind giving up those picks. I think those picks are going to be late picks. But in my mind, if he was playing garbage on offense, but locking down a second offensive player, yeah, OG at one wing and him at the other, I'd be okay with it. But the fact that he's not doing anything on offense and playing very suspect defense, it worries me.
Yeah, in terms of the win losses, I mean, it's an 82 game season. We know every team is going to have clunkers, especially on the West. The West Coast trip is always, for any East Coast team going to the West, there's always a team. The Jazz, I know they were terrible. It happens. I mean, it's 82 games. You're not going to play. So I'll give you a positive and a negative. Negative, you kind of stuck on. Um, you touched on a little bit, which was the defense. And obviously that's like supposed to be a Thibodeau staple. That's like his thing. Obviously you talked about Bridges, but obviously Brunson's not a defender. Karl Anthony Towns is not a defender. I think, at least in my opinion, I'm not sure if you think the same, but like obviously their offense, I think is like top 2 or top 3 technically in the league. I want to say. Um, but is their defense like a real concern? Like, is this a real, like, can it be fixed? Is it a gel thing?
Well, here's why I would say it's a concern because you made the Cat trade last, so you already knew you had Brunson on the floor, who is suspect defensively, and then you were going to bring Cat in, who is, although big body, is suspect defensively. So if you thought that at least the two wings would be locked down by OG and McHale, you can deal with the little lack of defense down low with Cat and up top with Jalen. But now, since the middle is now weaker because Bridges is not playing as lockdown defense as he should or was touted to, that's an issue. I think if he can even play, maybe not what they considered him to be, at least halfway there and halfway on offense, I think the Knicks will be exactly what I thought they were going to be, which is the second best team in the East. But if he's going to play like this, I don't know. And as good as OG has been, I will admit OG is.
Yeah.
A lot of people are starting to tout him as the East Coast Kawhi or the young Kawhi 2.0. That he's playing. He's becoming a real fact on offense, and he still locks down people on defense. He can't mask what Bridges has lacked so far.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with defense is it's not like it's one of those things that you can just like, it's not like shooting a basket or practicing shots. Either you kind of have it or you don't, kind of thing. I mean, I know you can have different strategies, kind of thing. Um, OG, I'll talk about positives. OG, crazy numbers points wise. He's put up past 3 games. He had 40 against the Nuggets. 40. 40. 27, I know, against the Jazz on their loss, but that's crazy amount. 23. I saw he took 23 shots. I know he was hot, and Brunson had 17 assists in that game, I believe, as well. That was crazy. That's really. I didn't think he had that in him. I know he had a jump shot in him, but I mean, I didn't watch the whole Nuggets game at all or see any of the Nuggets games. So I don't know if it was just jump shots or if it was uh, driving and creation. But that's really pretty good from OG
Yep.
doing that.
That's all I really got on the Knicks. Like I said, they're 2-1. One thing I didn't mention, I'm sorry, is that they're 2-1 since the last time we talked. And they have another couple games on the road before coming home. I think that this game one more on the road until before they come home back to New York. Okay. Speaking of New York, let's move over to football, please, and get this over with as quick as possible. The New York Giants and New York Jets still find ways to find the news. So let's talk about the Jets first and get them out of the way. They're a train wreck. Rodgers, rumors all over the place. Dan Rossini, he doesn't want to play for the Jets, but he wants to play next year. Aaron Rodgers, that report is false. I don't talk to anybody that would give out that information. It's just a sideshow all the time. I know I'm a Giant fan, you're a Dallas fan, but is there anything else you can consider this Jet organization besides a sideshow?
No. And considering they got rid of their, I mean, they got to go through the whole thing of GM and coach again, with Salah and uh, what was the GM's name? I forgot his name.
Douglas.
Yeah, Douglas, Joe Douglas. Get him fired, and it's. I mean, I never thought Salah was really the problem. Obviously, he wasn't the best, but he definitely, that defense was definitely humming while he was there. And now Aaron Rodgers says also he's refusing treatment because there may be something that's extremely wrong with him. That I guess I don't know why he doesn't want to sit out for whatever reason. Um, but I think it's kind of time because it seems like he obviously Rodgers doesn't have it to kind of lean on Brees Hall and just he's probably your. I mean, I know you got Devontae Adams, but I think it's time. I mean, it's a little late in the year now, but Brees Hall, you got to lean on Brees. Give him 20 to 25 touches and just go from there. Because you got a big Seattle game. Seattle has a big game for them. That division is 6-5, 5-6. So they're playing for a division right now. So it's going to be a tough game. And for the Jets, they kind of got to get through the season, and then go from there. But that's pretty much
Yeah.
what they're playing for.
Yeah. I mean, I know that they've made a point on WFAN of saying like it's not just Evan, it's been other hosts too, saying that you want to give the new GM the option. Let him come in and decide if Rodgers wants to play, if they want Rodgers as their quarterback. I just think he brings a whole nother level of circus. I was one of the biggest proponents. You know that you and Rocco made fun of me. I thought the Jets were going to win the division. I just recently have finally learned my lesson and stopped picking them in our picks per week. Yeah, they need, I think, to shred themselves of Rodgers. Let him go. He could be like a repeat of Brett Favre. If JJ McCarthy's not ready and Sam Darnold signs elsewhere, he can go to the Vikings and he could just follow exactly in Brett Favre's footsteps. And that would be a pretty funny coincidence there. But let's move over to the
Speaking of the
other.
Vikings, we can talk about Daniel Jones.
I will
Go,
bring
go,
that up. It's
go
in my
ahead.
NFL.
Go.
That's my NFL headlines. We will get there. But
Go.
let's talk about the other disaster across the hallway at MetLife Stadium. I tried to find. Put pictures, by the way, behind me, um, in our filter here, and I tried to find somebody online who has made a MetLife Stadium but on fire. I couldn't find one I liked though, so I went with basketball and hockey. So the Italian Stallion is out, injured, and Drew Lock will be under center against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. That's the game that makes us pick our picks after our podcast here, Danny. What do you think about the disaster that is New York Giants?
they definitely didn't react well to all that timing before last week's game against the Bucks. Um, I mean, and to be honest I kind of get where the fans or even the team is coming from in terms of it all in 1 week. Yeah, Daniel Jones got to the fourth string, and then by last Friday, he was cut. You're cutting your captain on a Friday. Um, and obviously, they had a couple players come out and say stuff. They had Dexter Lawrence come out because they were like buds. They kind of were. I think they were drafted together, so they were buds.
They were.
Obviously, after the game, neighbors had a lot to say with them being soft. Yeah, I mean, I like Dayball and Shane. I think I would like to still. I mean, I think it would be better for them to keep them. But with everything that's going on, I hope, at least for your sake, that John Mara is hopefully not going to fold to the pressure of the fans and try to get rid of him. But because I think they do need another chance, and I guess after a 2-win, 3-win, maybe 4-win season, I don't know if you can, but yeah, it's tough sledding right
I
now.
don't I don't know that they can survive, or at least I say both. I don't know if both of them can survive not winning another game all year and landing with 2 wins. Do I think you can make a case if they are in at least one or two of these games and win one of them going forward? I know 3-14 looks terrible, but if it's 3-14 and they show fight, yeah, I think you can keep them. I want to keep them. I fight with my father all the time. I fight with some of my other friends that they want Bill Belichick, and I don't want his old ass around my organization. I'm sorry. And he's way too old. By the time the Giants would be useful, he'd be looking at a senior citizen home, if not already. Um, I don't want Bill Belichick. As far as Dable and Shane, though, I know you listen. I wonder if you heard this on WFAN. Evan making the case. It's not crazy to think the Giants could get rid of Dable and keep Shane. No, stop. That's how the Giants become the Jets. And people like Evan, who is a great radio personality, he doesn't even realize he falls in the same trap. The Jets got on that merry-go-round where it was like, and then what happens if Shane brings in a coach, and that coach sucks in his first year, so they're going to fire the GM and then fire a coach after a year, or fire the GM and now a new GM inherits that coach. If you're going to clean slate, clean slate. You get rid of both, you start over. But if uh, you're going to either clean slate or keep both. I'm not looking to go down that stupid merry-go-round where it's like, well, this one only got 1 year, and then this one, and then you keep doing that same path. Keep them together. I think they're tied at the hip. I don't know how you feel about that.
There is something to say for having the experience, and it seems like, it's not just the Giants and the Jets who are trying to do this, and this is kind of in the minority here with NFL owners wanting to keep coaches and really coaches. Like if they have a few bad years, they're just done with them, and that's kind of where the kudos to the Pittsburgh Steelers of the world go when they've kept. Well, I think we talked about this last week. They have had 3 coaches in the last like 40 years, something like
Yeah,
that, and between all of them, and even I guess New England back in the day, but they were winning. But I think it's something to said for them to be there. It's not easy to deal with New York, and I know that, but Dayball, I think he's shown enough maybe not this year so much, but previous years to give him a real shot. Give him 5, 6 years. I mean, it can't be. What are you gonna just get Ben Johnson just because he's the hot new offensive coordinator? Um,
That's the one guy I wouldn't like. The only way I know you're saying that because Evan said it today. He said Shane and Ben Johnson worked together at some point. I think in Miami. That's the one name
the
I'm not firing Dable, but that's the one name I would be interested in. Besides for that, though, I don't
The
want to see.
only the only experienced coach that I would like for you guys would be, I think this is kind of on everybody's radar. It's going to be on Mike Vrabel. I don't. He seems like he got a bad rap in Tennessee. I don't know why. I don't know if because he argued with his owner. He was one of those guys that argued with his owner a lot. Um, Go.
I
Go.
have an idea. I have an idea. You're so in love with this idea of Shador Sanders getting drafted by the New York Giants.
I already know what you're gonna. You heard this
How
on the
about this?
radio. I know what you're gonna say.
You make Mike Vrabel is the coach, and you bring in, wait for it,
I,
Pat Shermer as the offensive coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator in Colorado. You bring him in and make him Vrabel, a strong offensive mind, but a defensive guy. Genius.
I, he was a pretty good offensive coordinator when he was in the league. I know that's a bad idea. That's not going to happen. Well, you never know. But
It has happened. Look
especially
at
if
Vance
Dion,
Joseph.
especially if Dion doesn't stay, who knows with that? But yeah, no. I mean, again, I'm not. We're both not proponents of letting them go. But yeah, I just give them a chance. That's all. That's all you can do is give them a shot. And I know the fans are going to push back on it no matter what, and it's going to be the minority decision, or it's not going to be. It's going to be that decision that Maris has to make. He has to lean on his guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And quickly before we pivot here, I got the Nick game on in the background. They're doing highlights of other games. James Harden, 41 points tonight. What?
Who?
Like sometimes he decides he wants to still play basketball, and other times he looks
Who?
absolutely awful.
Who?
Harden, 41, and they're in the third quarter.
They
Um,
they suck.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of them. I don't, but okay. So we were talking to bring us full circle back to the Giants. We were talking about the Giants and if we're going to let the coach and the GM go. Well, somebody that the coach and the GM did let go leads off my NFL headlines. That's why before you mentioned it, I wanted to save it for my pivot here. And they let Daniel Jones go. And yesterday. Yesterday was the day they could claim him. I think today was the day we finally found out officially that it was the Minnesota Vikings that came to an agreement with Daniel Jones. He's going to come into Minnesota. I know that you professed earlier that you thought that they already had a backup better than Daniel Jones. But I believe that they don't believe that, or they wouldn't have brought him in.
That is, that is, I didn't say that. Our friend Rocco pretty much said that next week Daniel Jones, or this week, that Daniel Jones could come in and start. And I said you got to give him a few weeks. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is not better than Nick Mullins. I'm taking Daniel Jones over Nick Mullins, but I'm saying Nick Mullins has been there for a while. He would have to get. But okay, go.
Well, especially
Don't put that over there.
no, I know, but especially if Darnold's ankle continues to be a problem. At least I think as Daniel learns the playbook. I mean, let's face it. The one thing everybody says about Daniel, he's a very smart quarterback. Now, he may not make decisions quick enough on the field, but he didn't go to some dumb university of whatever state. He went to Duke University. And although, like, obviously he's an athlete, you got to be a certain level of smart to be somewhere like Duke. This is not a garbage university. He has always been touted as somebody who is intellectually smart. So I think he'll be able to absorb the playbook quickly. Will he be able to make it happen on the field? Maybe not. I mean, Kevin O'Connell is like a
That,
quarterback whisperer.
that
So
that's what kind of I think Wade kind of. I mean, I'm assuming he's only there for the year for now.
for now,
But I mean, to go there, I think that was kind of maybe part of his thinking. At least you would think
I mean,
that Kevin O'Connell is just kind of he's a really smart guy himself, and he's been a guy that's taken quarterbacks, maybe rise them above, their limits a little bit.
yeah.
For to say.
So I mean, ideally, if you're Daniel, Sam gets hurt, you play well, and JJ's not ready for a start of the year. Maybe they bring you back, even if it's a 1 year deal, bring you back on a deal that you can be the bridge to when JJ is ready. Or you do so good, then they can decide to keep you and ship out JJ. Who knows? Okay, so I wanted to bring to our NFL headlines because I think we had this debate kind of separately, but the MVP debate is starting to heat up across NFL circles and on social media. Saquon Barkley's numbers, I just saw another reel about it. Saquon Barkley's numbers actually dwarf Adrian Peterson's numbers the last time a non-quarterback won the AP player MVP of the NFL. Lamar Jackson's numbers are insane, but as you saw in our guy text group, I think that Henry will hurt Jackson in his MVP candidacy just because he's such a monster, and people will try to excuse not voting for Lamar by saying, well, because Henry's there, it opens up all the lanes, and you and I can make those throws. Not true. Lamar's doing awesome, but I think that will take away from him. If you're going to give it to somebody who carries the team on their back, it's Josh Allen. He's got Cook, who's been very good, but both the tight ends we thought were going to have great years, and then we talked about that in the offseason. They're okay. The wide receivers have done a little bit here and there. It's really him on offense. So, what do you think about the MVP debate?
Yeah, I'm actually with you with the Josh Allen part of it. I know a lot of people predicted a down year for Buffalo. I know in our picks, I think we kind of both had him at like the third, maybe the finishing third behind the Jets and Miami in no particular order. But yeah, it's a quarterback award. Whether we like it or not, quarterbacks have so much more responsibility than a running back does. And he's having a fantastic year. I know I heard that I think he only has to average, Barkley has to average 120 yards for the rest of the game, for the rest of the year to pass Eric to the rushing record of Eric Dickerson. Um, so obviously that's in play. That's saying a lot, and he's having a great year.
Yeah,
And I heard that he's kind of not too much, like too afraid. I don't say afraid. That's a strong word. He's not hesitant anymore to take the contact because he has all that guaranteed money now. So I'm not saying he was with the Giants, but I heard that through the
yeah,
airwaves.
you're right.
And he's doing great. I'm just not good with the Giant fans saying, oh my God, no, we should have signed Barkley. I'm not buying into that.
I'm a
It's
Giants fan,
different.
and I'm with you. I think I professed on either last week's pod or the pod before. I know I've said this in person to some people who I talk sports with at school and stuff like that. That these Giant fans that are delusional, they're like, "Why-" and I got to see it all the time. And it's not a race thing at all. It's just that he gave the money to Daniel Jones, a quarterback,
Sure.
and they were like, "Oh well, Daniel was so important that they get the quarterback and blah 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 blah." But guys, that's not the way the NFL works, okay? Yeah, they signed Daniel, but as this showed you, this what just transpired in the last couple of weeks showed you that the contract was really a 2-year contract. They
Yeah.
didn't give Daniel Jones, they didn't make him the highest paid quarterback in the league. He was actually, when they got released, one of the middle of the pack type paid quarterbacks as far as the NFL goes. So that whole narrative that, oh, you should have paid Barkley instead of Jones, it's not how this works, guys. It's not how it works. And you know what? I like Saquon. He wasn't going to be this good ever. Doesn't matter how good or how nervous he is about taking contact. The Giants don't have the horses that Philly has. That's my only
Yeah,
point.
no, I agreed. Yeah, it's different, whole different circumstance. He might have had the yards, maybe a lot less yards, a little less yards, but he wasn't impacting winning and over in the Giants. So it is what it is.
So I have a question. As far as our headlines go, it's still part of our headlines, but I want to give you 3 teams. You tell me which. Give me 2 teams of those 3 you think will make the playoffs in the AFC. Denver, Chargers, Miami.
2 of the 3 have to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whatever. I'm putting it. Then this kind of goes on the coaches, really, but Denver and the Chargers. Seems like Sean Payton has really found his guy in Bo Nix. Their defense, they got Vance Joseph back as D coordinator, who was kind of a failure as a head coach, and he went back to what he was great at, and they're doing really well. And then I would pick the Chargers too. I think they're a year ahead of schedule. I think I said that when we are doing our previews well back in August, and everyone knew this was going to be a great hire, Harbaugh. But to have them at 7-4,
Just
something like
quick.
that. I think that
Yep.
something like that. They just lost. So, but 7-4 with what they have on offense. I mean, I know they have Herbert, and he's a good quarterback. But for the receivers that they don't have, and for the running backs that they kind of just got off of Baltimore scrap heap, um, But I think I would choose to have Miami. Unfortunately for our friend Rocco to be left out of that conversation.
Well, to give a little tease, if they win this week, we're gonna have Rocco on for a minute or two next week to talk Miami because they are, besides the Bills, the hottest team in the NFL. For me, as good as Bo has been, I'll take the Chargers in Miami. I think this surge from Miami is real. I looked at their schedule, even with a loss tomorrow night. They have a very easy schedule going forward, and I think they could win all but one of their games. I think that the game that I think they have the best chance to lose is tomorrow night, and then the rest of the way, I believe they're going to be favorites. So I would pick Miami and the Chargers, with Denver finishing right on the outside, which is still a great year for Bo Nix, who was the last of all those quarterbacks taken there. Um, and I will say, I have the NFC teams ready for you. Pick three of these teams: Arizona, Atlanta, and the Rams.
Two of those three.
Hmm.
Um, well, Atlanta isn't Atlanta, and aren't they
So
ahead?
I say
Aren't they ahead
Atlanta,
of their division?
Atlanta and Tampa are one game apart, and so I guess whoever doesn't win the
Tampa
division,
is ahead by one game in the division.
yes. No. Atlanta's ahead by one game.
Oh, okay. So and then we got the Arizona and the Rams. That's a tough one. Because Arizona, Kyler Murray decides to show up, and then I'm going to go with the more stable. I'm going to go with the Rams, and I'll take the Falcons. Or I mean, if we're going to put the Bucks in there too, I'll take the combination of the Falcons, Bucks, and the Rams, basically leaving um, the Cardinals left out. It seems like Kyler Murray has these games where, like, oh my God, he's back, or oh my God, like, he's amazing. And then there's games like last week where I picked them to beat Seattle, and Seattle just him shut him down, or whatever. Um, so yeah, I would definitely favor the Falcons or
Yeah.
the Rams or Bucks.
Um, Obviously Arizona's at a place of strength because they are ahead of the Rams. I think by two or three games in the wild card. I think it's two games. I think
I
the whole
think it's
division,
the
the whole
Fal-
division, the whole division is like separated by like two games.
the
That West division. Um, as far as the Falcons in Tampa, I think whatever team um doesn't win that division has a shot at getting in as a 6 or 7 seed, which is good. I mean, I like Baker. We all like Kirk. We joke around about Kirk in our guy group all the time. So I wouldn't mind seeing both of those teams in the playoffs. And the last question I have for you, as far as playoffs go, and I think I obviously know the answer because of the circumstances, but who's in bigger trouble right now, San Francisco or Cincinnati?
Cincinnati, just because of the AFC, and just because there's so many teams that they have to climb over. San Francisco technically still has a chance at the division. They're kind
Yeah.
of right there. I think they've either one, maybe two. I think it's only one. I think they're only 6-5 and 5-6 for when
Yeah,
I'm
but
mistaken.
with them, you got to take into consideration is how bad is this shoulder hurt for Purdy? I would have
Oh
assumed
no, yeah, no, yeah, no, I'm with you. But just the fact that the Bengals, it seems like Burrow is playing out of his mind every single week. He's throwing 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns.
defense can't stop a nosebleed. Yep.
Chase has been amazing.
Yeah.
The running back Chase Brown has been running roughshod. Yeah, Jamar Chase roughshod. It's but they just seem to can't find any wins right now for what I guess their defense is. They're weak, obviously, but I would pick the 49ers, the Bengals to be in more trouble than the 49ers.
I agree just because of the AFC. I just thought that maybe like, and the NFC is so close, especially the NFC West. I just thought that maybe the Purdy injury kind of equaled all teams in front of Cincinnati. But you're right. Chase and Burrow have been really good, but the defense can't stop a nosebleed. We won't tell our fantasy group that Shelly traded me Chase Brown for Trey Benson straight up because she had James
Jesus
Conner and I
Christ.
had Zach Moss. So
Jesus Christ.
that's
Forgot about that crap.
actual trade. Hey,
Jesus
listen, I
Christ.
said, hey, I have your handcuff, you have my handcuff. You want to make a deal? And she goes, I can get behind that. And she traded me Chase Brown, and I knew all along Chase Brown was going to eventually take over for Zach Moss. I tried to draft Trace Brown, and she drafted him the round I was going to draft him. So it was lucky for me that I was able to make that trade. Danny, let's finish off the podcast this week by talking about our true love. Let's talk about the New York Yankees.
Juan, Juan,
And I love Juan, and I want to see
Juan,
Juan back in the Yankees.
Juan,
But
Juan.
we have still not gotten a decision from him. He put on Twitter a big fake out, and it was just him joining Celsius. Whatever. Anyway, everybody was up in arms about that. I'm like, he's having fun. He's awkward, whatever. Anyway, I posed a question to you earlier today, and I want to see what your answer is. Not named Juan Soto. Give me one move you want to see the Yankees make this offseason.
Um, Definitely need a power type bat. Um, and I'm probably looking at first base. With either Walker or I actually wouldn't even mind if we had a chance at Alonso. Um, just not. I mean, I know his defense is okay, and he's really a one-trick pony. I get that, but he's a power bat. He's going to hit the 35, 40 home runs when he's healthy. Same thing with Walker. I think with Walker too, he's a little older, so it might be better because he might be on a shorter term deal. I think he's 34. I want to say,
3 or 4 years.
yeah, something like that. Um, so I was going through the Yankees, yeah. So it's pretty much them too, but I was going through the Yankees roster, and I wouldn't mind having a little bit besides signing Juan, to kind of go a little bit with the younger kids around. I would want to see Jazz back at second. I wouldn't mind putting either one of the Oswalds at third between Oswaldo and Cabrera and Peraza. Dominguez hopefully is going to be in left field. Um, Kind of go with a little bit of a younger thing, and kind of obviously Trevino. Kind of got to get rid of Trevino. Bring in. I think they have a couple catchers in their minor league system that could back up Wells. But in terms of the guys, but if we do all that younger things that what I'm talking about, we definitely need another power bat, and that's what the question was with Walker, or even Alonso if we miss out.
So, same question for me is I know that they're going to make moves, whether if it's Soto, if they make the move for Soto, I know there's small moves coming after that. Maybe a trade, and then like some bargain basement, Brian Cashman specials, as we call them. But
Bullpen.
if not named Soto, if I could pick something I want Tanner Scott. I want a reliable arm in the bullpen that can give you the option to maybe use Luke Weaver as an eighth inning guy, or make them 1A and 1B. Some games this one closes, some games that one closes. We're the New York Yankees. We have a top 3 payroll. We should feel good with at minimum 2 or 3 guys in the bullpen. I'm sick of like, oh my god, I got one guy out there. Everybody else got to cross your fingers and hope to God. I'm not saying we need Mariano Rivera, but we need some reliability back there. And if I can't have Soto, I want to feel more confident in that 7th inning. If I have a lead, this game is mine.
I would hope even if we have Soto, that we'd still go after someone like a Tanner Scott. We've done it before. We've got Chapman before. We've signed Chapman to long-term deals before. I know it's not been a Cashman thing because he's been actually really successful at finding
Bullpen.
diamonds in the rough in the bullpen and guys on the cheap, and then all of a sudden they're really good, which I know, especially you, really down on Cashman, but that seems to be one of his really
I
good
agree.
traits, is bringing in some bullpen guys that are off the scrap heap, like most of our bullpen is, and making them really good.
Yep. I think actually might be one thing if I was evaluating his job, would save his job. Those are the moves that he makes that you're like, wow. Like, Canely coming back. Now, Canely was shaky, but they got Canely for nothing. They got Luke Weaver in like a Rule 5 draft. So these pickups that he makes are usually pretty good, but he knows when he needs to go pay for a reliever, like when he paid for Chapman to come back. So we'll see. But I think he should remember in the offseason how expensive bullpen pitching becomes at the deadline. So it'd be better now to pony up the money for somebody like a Tanner Scott than to say, oh, we want your top 2 prospects for a bullpen arm. Because then you're like, what are you, high? I'm not giving you that. So,
We can agree on that one, especially after this past year where they were after Tanner Scott, and obviously they didn't want to give up Spencer Jones or Dominguez at the time.
Like you said, Danny, we got a big week ahead of us. We're going to watch football tomorrow. We're going to make our picks in a minute. We're going to record it, and I am going to edit it for us, and I'll have it posted by tomorrow morning so that it's up before the games are on tomorrow. But we have games tomorrow. We have a Black Friday game, which would be a snooze fest. And then we have, obviously, if the
No
Soto
Taylor
news
Swift.
comes.
You don't want to see Taylor Swift on Friday?
No, I'll pass. Thanks. But hopefully we'll get some Soto news. I'm hoping by next time we have a podcast, at least some rumors, some because apparently 5 teams have submitted offers. So hopefully we get a little traction on that because the rest of the free agents are waiting for him mostly. We didn't even talk about Blake Snell tonight. Damn, I forgot. We'll talk about it next week. But yeah, we got a busy week, so tell them where they can find us.
Yeah. So yeah, find us on Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube. We just kind of posted our own little personal little bio on Instagram lately. So hopefully take a look at that. And yeah, keep commenting, subscribing, leave comments, argue with us. We'll bring it up on the podcast. So for till next time, I'm Danny. This is Neil. Signing off.